Good evening. My name is Carolyn Schoenberger, and I would like to welcome you to Immigration Forum. I am thrilled to have as my guest tonight Edyta Salata from the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Edyta is a member and she's also in private practice. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So, before we talk about our topic for tonight, which is protecting your family's future, I want to talk a little bit about the Chicago Legal Clinic. The Chicago Legal Clinic was founded in 1980 by two new lawyers who wanted to bring legal services to the southeast side of Chicago. In the 1970s, the southeast side of Chicago was a thriving community. These steel mills were operating and people built wonderful homes and businesses. But as business started to die down and the steel mills started closing, people did not have a place where they could go that was affordable, that could provide them with legal services. And the two new lawyers, Bishop Thomas John Paprocki and Edward Grossman, started the Chicago Legal Clinic in one room near 91st Street and Commercial. Today, that was in 1982. Today, 2016, there are 4 offices of the Chicago Legal Clinic in neighborhoods: South Chicago, Pilsen, where I work, Austin, and downtown. There are also 3 free clinics at the courthouse that help with changing your name, foreclosure defense, child support advice, and a free legal clinic that gives advice and legal referrals at Harold Washington College, where I teach. So if you have a case involving immigration, divorce, domestic violence, Social Security, disability, real estate, wills, probate, please call the Chicago Legal Clinic between the hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, at 312-226-2669, 312-226-2669. I would also ask that during the course of the show, if you have any questions, please call the number on your screen, 312-738-1060. So I'm now going to try to talk a little bit in Spanish. So I want to say buenas tardes. Me llamo Carolina Schoenberger. Yo soy abogada con la Clínica Legal de Chicago. Quiero decirle un poco de la Clínica Legal de Chicago. La clínica fue establecida en 1982 por 2 abogados nuevos que querían ayudar a la gente del sur de Chicago. Antes de 1980 había muchas acerías en el sur de Chicago, pero se cerraron las acerías y la gente que trabajaba en las acerías pierden sus trabajos. También los negocios en el sur de Chicago sufrieron por la falta de clientes. En este barrio no había ninguna oficina legal ofreciendo ayuda legal a bajos costos. Entonces, 2 abogados, Eduardo Grossman y el obispo Thomas John Paprocki, establecieron la Clínica Legal de Chicago en un solo cuarto. Actualmente, hay 4 oficinas de la clínica en el sur de Chicago, Pilsen, Austin y en el centro. También hay varias oficinas en las cortes que ofrecen ayuda legal gratuita a la gente con problemas de mantenimiento de los niños y foreclosure. Hay también una oficina en Harold Washington College, en donde soy profesora, que ofrece ayuda legal gratuita a los estudiantes. Si tiene un problema legal como inmigración, violencia doméstica, bienes raíces, seguro social de incapacidad, testamentos, poderes, hay de llamar al número centro de la Clínica Legal de Chicago al lunes a viernes a 9 de la mañana hasta las 5 de la tarde. Llame por favor a 773-731-1762, 773-731-1762. Y por favor, recuérdese, no hay ninguna ley que es una ley nueva. So hay de tomar ayuda y cuida, por favor. Entonces hablaremos en inglés ahora. I want to, before we begin our program, just remind people there is no new law. There are proposals, there's a case in the Supreme Court. However, there is no new law, and please be careful out there because there are people taking money so that you will be first to apply for this new law. When there is new law, we are hopeful that the Supreme Court will authorize the program for parents of citizen children and an expanded program for people who entered as young children. But until the Supreme Court rules, there is no new law, so please be careful. So, having said all this, welcome again, Edyta.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on behalf of American Immigration Attorneys Association regarding how to protect yourself against becoming a victim of immigration fraud.
So maybe let's start out by saying, what is the American Immigration Lawyers Association? Who are they?
American Immigration Attorneys Association is a voluntary bar association that consists of over 14,000 attorneys and law professors that practice immigration law on a regular basis.
And is this a national organization?
Correct. It's a national organization for attorneys that practice in United States as well as abroad.
And it's a nonprofit. It's not a profit-making venture. Is that correct?
This is a voluntary non-for-profit organization.
Okay, so when we talk about protecting your family, protecting yourself, how does this relate to immigration?
Many individuals and their families live in the United States and work here, and they hope to find a path to citizenship eventually. And there are many dishonest notarios or other dishonest providers, for example, travel agencies, that prey on those dreams and take advantage of intending immigrants by either collective excessive fees, providing ineffective assistance, or collecting fees and not doing anything at all.
So let's talk about what is a notary? Because here I'm a notary, which means that I can witness someone signing a paper and put a stamp on it. Why does a notary mean so much to people from South America and parts of Europe?
Basically, we are talking here about the meaning of the word that is used in two different ways. When we talk about notaries here in the United States, we're simply referring to a person that can witness a signature and identify the signator. However, notarios are not attorneys. It's important to know that notarios are not attorneys. They are not accredited representative approved by U.S. government. They have no specialized legal training in immigration law. As a matter of fact, in any field of law. They are basically, like I was saying before, licensed to witness signatures. And when you look at some of the European countries or Latin American countries, when we use the word notariusz in Polish or notario publico, we are referring to licensed attorneys who are authorized by governments to practice law.
My understanding is that in some countries, in order to have a will become effective or even to transfer real estate, a notary has to look at the transaction and handle that.
Correct. So basically you're talking, for example, in Poland you have a different legal structure, and notaries it's basically a special license that is required for attorneys that practice in the law that deals with property.
Okay, so when people talk about hiring a lawyer to do immigration, to fill out why do you need a lawyer to even, fill out a form? Why do you need a lawyer at all? Lawyers are supposed to be expensive. But why do you need a lawyer?
When you looked at the field of immigration and the act of filling out the form, you have to also consider the repercussion. Let's say if the form is then submitted to a governmental agency, you are taking steps and you're making certain representations, and it is important to realize the consequences of those steps. And sometimes if the form is filled out incorrectly, if the form consists information that is not truthful, an immigrant who is an intending immigrant who is completing and submitting the form using, for example, notarial services, can jeopardize their future.
When you say jeopardize the future, What could happen?
So, for example, I had a consultation with a client who, at some point, filled out a work authorization form that he was not really legally entitled to, and the form was submitted. He has forgotten all about it, and then 10 years later, he had entered into a valid marriage with a U.S. citizen. And had, we thought, a clear path to becoming, aside from issues with entry, to potentially applying for a waiver and processing the case here in the United States. However, because of this action that we have then uncovered by researching his immigration file, we have realized that he has another bar, another inadmissibility bar, another obstacle on his path, and that he won't be able to take advantage of the waiver that he otherwise would have been in place to help him become a green card holder.
So, in other words, basically, since you're not dealing with someone who's trained, someone could end up either being denied becoming a resident, a citizen, or even put into deportation court. We don't, I guess, call it removal court, and be deported.
Correct. You're facing, regardless of the monetary constraints, some cases when you use services of notarios or people who are not licensed or don't understand the intricacies of immigration law, you may just think about the expenditure, the money that you spend, and then you don't really obtain any kind of benefit. But I think the more important part is that you might be creating potential bars, potential obstacles to later taking advantage of opportunity, whether it's a new law or some other, for example, marriage or another avenue that opens up for you.
So at some point in my career, I actually was part of a case against a notary who was filling in forms that he should not have been filling out and getting people work authorization. And when the Immigration Service realized they weren't eligible, thousands of people were placed into removal proceedings. And it was really a horrible thing that happened to them. So again, the repercussions, you can be denied a benefit, or in fact, you could end up facing possible deportation. What does a lawyer do when a client comes in?
I think the most important part of the biggest benefit of seeing an attorney in connection with a potential immigration case is an analysis or being able to obtain information that is comprehensive regarding potential avenues for regulating one's immigration status. So, for example, when I sit down with my client, the first thing that I do is go through a detailed history. I'll take history regarding immigration petitions that were filed, the thorough immigration history. I'll look into criminal history that an applicant potentially can have. And then based on this very broad intake, I then develop a plan of action and for this particular person to obtain or reach their immigration goals. And sometimes it means that we will be filing certain applications to obtain this benefit. Sometimes it means that we might not because of the risk of deportation, for example.
So again, it's very comprehensive, and you ask very important questions. And but to hear some of the notaries talk, they're merely filling in a form. Why can't a notary just fill in a form?
Correct, and then you're talking to about two different things. As we spoke before, because the act of filling out the form and then submitting the form to immigration, to CIS, or for example, the form is never submitted, then you may basically jeopardize future path towards certain benefit by either not taking steps or taking steps and providing false information. That's one aspect of it. There's a second aspect. Let's say if I come to a notarial person that is not licensed to practice law in the United States, and I don't clearly identify the type of form that I would like to complete, that person, by assessing my case and selecting the forms that he thinks or she thinks I should be filling out, I should be completing, is committing an offense, is breaking a law here in the United States.
Okay, so I've had a case where a notary has filled out, instead of filling out a form to remove conditions when someone has had a conditional green card, has filled out a form to renew a resident card. And those are the types of things that can happen if non-lawyers choose the wrong form. So the
Cool.
answer is not to choose
Correct.
form.
Correct. And I had a similar case, and again, in the case that I was, my client basically has wasted a number of years by basically filling out or submitting a form that was not appropriate. He was supposed to fill out or submit a petition to remove the condition on the residency. Instead, he submitted the form to renew the permanent residency card, and it takes him one step farther away from the benefit, and the case it becomes more and more difficult to win ultimately.
But people would say that lawyers are expensive. You don't need to go to a lawyer. They're just going to charge you a lot of money. What do you say to that?
I think that's a common misconception, and there are many attorneys that practice pro bono. There are many attorneys that work for NGOs that do not charge, that they charge nominal fees for their services. And there are also private attorneys that will either take a case pro bono or they're willing to negotiate their fees. I would tell any potential intending immigrant that considers their options to seek information and either via a private attorney or via attorney that is associated with an NGO that provides services for low fees, or seek help from accredited representative who's working for a recognized organization that is licensed by the Board of Immigration Appeals to assist.
So what can an accredited lay representative do?
Accredited representative that works for a recognized organization can aid an applicant, in an intended immigrant, in the paperwork that is required to process in an analysis. It's basically limited representation before the organization, the agency that the case is
but they
pending.
generally don't go to court.
Under certain circumstances, they can assist an immigrant in their removal proceedings.
Okay,
It's a
but
limited representation.
limitation. So again, you have your choice. You have legal help at every price point, and you can negotiate fees and do payment plans. What happens if you go to a notary and a notary gives you bad advice and you end up in removal proceedings? You've paid a lot of money. What is your recourse? What can you do?
So there's a number of things that one can do when one becomes a victim of immigration fraud. I would encourage any person that is faced with this situation to report the crime. It's a crime, and the crime should be reported. The crime can be reported to Chicago Police Department. The crime can be reported to Attorney General's office. And aside from that, I would also encourage any individual that is faced with the situation to speak with a licensed attorney or accredited representative.
Excellent.
In order to take it a step farther and see if the situation can be remedied, if you can basically find a path to the benefit, to immigration benefit, based on the fact that the person is a victim of fraud.
And the city of Chicago also handles complaints from people who have been defrauded by immigrants. So when you want to choose an attorney, how would you go about choosing an attorney? Do you look at someone's ad on television or a billboard? How do you go about choosing an attorney?
I would recommend, as far as the field of immigration law, to look at the website of American Immigration Lawyers Association and try to find a referral there, because the organization basically is an organization for attorneys that practice in that particular field. Aside from that, I would always encourage anyone to make sure that the attorney is licensed. Double check with ARDC here in Illinois.
What is ARDC?
So basically, it's on the website. If you Google ARDC, you can find a search engine that provides you with information regarding the attorneys that are licensed to practice in Illinois. You can enter the name, and then you can basically determine whether this particular attorney has a license, and then whether or not there were any kind of complaints made against this attorney, and whether or not the attorney is basically in good standing with the state bar here.
So that's
in
the Illinois Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission,
Correct.
and it would be iardc.org.
Correct.
And the website for AILA would be American Immigration Lawyers Association would be AILA.org also.
Correct. Or ailalawyer.com.
AILAlawyer.
.gov.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. So again, you're urging people to be careful out there because in the wrong hands you can be denied being a resident, you could be deported. In some cases, you could actually be jailed. What happens if people want to complain? A lot of people say they want to complain, but they feel they're going to be arrested if they go to the city of Chicago and claim they've been defrauded. Is that something that's realistic?
I don't believe that this is realistic. I would encourage everybody who has become a victim of immigration fraud to report it, either whether it's to City of Chicago. You can actually go and report that on the website, on City of Chicago's website, the violation of the ordinance that regulates immigration service providers. Or state attorney general's office or Chicago Police Department. I would really encourage people to take action and be vocal about the wrongs that have been done to them.
But the important thing is also I really loved your advice about if you're a victim, contact an attorney and have the attorney guide you in this process.
Correct, because you're looking at I guess, two aspects. The first aspect is reporting the crime. The other aspect is what does it mean to my particular situation. And if I do talk with either a licensed attorney or accredited representatives, perhaps they will help me, for example, if I was an intending immigrant, to find some kind of path that builds on the fact that someone has become a victim of immigration fraud.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight and for giving advice. I want to remind people that the Supreme Court, as of the date of this show, which is June 15th, 2016, has not yet ruled. There is no new program involving parents of U.S. citizen children. There is no new program that lifts the age limit on people applying for deferred action for childhood arrivals. So that may happen sometime soon. We're certainly hoping that the Supreme Court will allow both programs to go ahead, but currently there is no program. So we urge you to be careful out there. Seek a licensed attorney, do your homework, talk to people. Everyone has different facts, and when I hear some guy says this, I have to say, I don't know that person, I don't know their facts. And again, I want to thank Edyta, the American Immigration Lawyers Association, for coming and giving such wonderful advice. I want to remind you, as people watching the show, to please contact the Chicago Legal Clinic if you have a question regarding immigration, wills, real estate, divorces. And we look forward to seeing you next month, June 20th, 2016. We'll be talking with a member, with the executive director of a Silver Lining Foundation. So thank you very much for watching the show, and have a good evening.